Hey, Marcus, what's up, man? You just took the PMP exam like minutes ago, practically.
Yeah.
How'd it go, dude?
So it was the most anxiety I've probably felt in I don't know how long. And the reason I say that, this is the third time that I've taken an exam, failed
Okay.
twice, obviously. And so I was really apprehensive. I knew that I needed to do something different because I had tried different classes where it was like, okay, let's do all the memorization, data dump, all of that kind of stuff. And obviously it didn't work for me. So as I was taking the exam, one of the things that I noticed this time is like, I would read the question first, like you're supposed to do, and then read like the lead into the question. And by the time I was done reading the lead in, I often was like, oh, saying the answer before I even looked at the options. So I'm going through the options and I'm like, okay, let me just double check, make sure I'm not getting too eager, like
Yeah.
slow it down, take a breath. But one of the things that I was really thinking about, one of the days, there's a session that you have that goes through like just keeping your head in the game and like taking a breather and all of that kind of stuff. And I kept looking at the clock in the corner. And the reason I kept looking, I mean, obviously you need to keep track of the clock. But when I first took the first two times that I failed it, I was done. Like, I don't even think I took 3 hours to take it.
Yeah.
And I walked out of it. When I clicked submit, I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely passed that. Failed. And so this time, I'm looking at the clock and I'm like, okay, wait, this is taking me way longer than last time. Like, what's going on here? So I kind of started like freaking out a little bit. And then I thought about that lesson. I was like, okay, wait, take a step back, breathe. You got this. Relax. Like, calm down. You're working yourself up. And so I made it through and had an excellent score.
Dude, and not even just excellent, like you beat me, good job. You beat basically everybody because you got like crazy high 3 above targets. So that's pretty from failing twice to 3 above targets. It's not anything to be understated, man. It's like you should be super happy and proud, and you put in the work and you did it. So like you have some perspective on things, not to go negative right off the bat, but if the traditional training, the boot camps, the whatever didn't work for you, didn't work for me, didn't work for a lot of people. What's wrong with it, man?
Like, so for me, and this is something that I know is like my learning style. I've never been a person that's just like, I need you to just be able to spit out whatever facts. No, I need to be able to think it through and it needs to make sense to me in order for me to like, again, be able to reproduce. And so with taking the other classes, I'm like, okay, if this test is one that's just, what is the definition of a project? If I got a test of that, I can handle that. But that's not what the PMP is at all. You need to be able to know what all of this stuff actually means and how to implement it. And so when looking at the different boot camps that I took before, just that way of, memorize this stuff, do your data dump. And I've been focusing so much on getting my the process group chart, all of that stuff, and being able to memorize that and all of these equations. And I'm like, this is killing me. This one, I didn't write anything down on the like whiteboard that was on the screen. None of that stuff. Like, and everything was just coming to me as I was taking the exam.
That's awesome, dude. It feels good, like for the students to be like, yo, you're just going off your logic in your brain. And so it was always inside of you, man. Like, that's the cool, like when I talked to you initially, I was like, you're almost, we just got to get you there. We just got to get you there. It's not a big, like, you already got the passion. You already got the experience. We just got to line it up. I mean, you don't have like the world's greatest experience, like, and who does, but you did really, really well. So when, you went through really quickly with the accelerator, like, what did you like most? Like, what was the thing that like connected with you, helped you understand stuff? What about it helped you the most, man?
So first off, I never got bored. That is a big thing with me. Like the other class that I took, like the first class that I took, I remember the instructor doing saying some pretty inappropriate things. I don't remember anything else about the class, but I remember that instructor saying some inappropriate stuff to one of the people that was in the class. I had another, like, it was a self-taught one, which, I mean, it was great information. And like me looking back, it'll be great just to like, just get some more of the PMI information that's in there. But this one was like, okay, I'm not bored with this content. I was actually looking forward to studying each one of the times, and going through the different case studies with John and everybody that was in there. Like it was fun. And like, yeah, I can't remember the last time where there was something that I basically had to learn and actually enjoyed learning it.
That's cool, dude. That's cool. I mean, and like, and at the end of the day, you didn't memorize anything, right? Like,
No.
you didn't like. So, do you think that PMP students, like, there's a dogma out there, like, oh, you got to memorize this long chart, or you got to do all these data dump thingies? What do you say to those people?
No, so like going through the class, I didn't memorize anything, but the stuff that I would have spent all of that time memorizing came right back to me. So like there were a few questions that were like, oh, so what would be the next thing that the project manager would do? And I'm like, oh, you sequence of activities after that. Like I didn't have to look at a piece of paper to do that. I knew it because I had to go through so much in order to learn the stuff in the class. So yeah, sitting there and like wasting time writing stuff out on a piece of paper, yeah, I didn't need that at all.
That's awesome, dude. And like the part that I really enjoyed, because like the part that I get to work together with the students is, well, obviously I am in there in spirit in the videos, like, you know, because I got to get one like big crescendo, like boom, that's me in the videos. But like the big time is the live times with the hard questions and stuff. So you did a couple of those with us. We threw you in there and multiple times. Like, what was that experience? Did it help you? How did it help you? Talk me through that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I was terrified at first because again, the first session I had was basically a day and a half after I spoke to you, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I did the memorization stuff before. I know I don't know anything because my previous scores. Well, I shouldn't say don't know anything, but don't know how to use the information that I do know.
True.
And my previous scores reflected that. So I'm like, oh, I'm getting in here with all these different folks that they've been doing this for I don't know how long. Like, I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. And that didn't happen at all. Everybody in there was super supportive, which was awesome. And it like, even for the stuff, I really like the one thing you kept saying is stop saying that you don't know this. Stop saying you don't know this. And I'm like, oh, I do know some of this stuff. When I was sitting there taking the exam, like when you're sitting there doing the hard questions thing, are you sitting there figuring out, okay, is this a waterfall or is it agile method? Like what process group would this be in? All of that kind of stuff. Like it was coming back naturally. So like I would start reading the prompt to the question. I'm like, oh, okay, I know why this is agile. And so wait, let me make sure that when I see the option that is, I don't know, for instance, they'll throw in some of the options that like would be correct if you're doing a waterfall method, but not correct if you're doing agile. And I'm like, okay, see, I know this now. And
Nice.
before I'm like, I don't know.
What you do know. Like, yeah. And so, but I mean, why were you scared the first time, man? Like,
just so I was way too cocky, obviously, the first two times that I had taken an exam. And so going into it this time, I'm like, I know I don't know. And so I'm nervous because my like morale, my confidence is just dead at this point. Like I was really ready to throw in the towel, honestly. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to accomplish this test. Like I've sunk so much money in to redoing the test and all of this stuff. I'm like, there's no, I shouldn't be doing this. Like this is not for me. And so
do you ever think about giving up?
I did. Yeah, I did. Like, I mean, even so, when you get the pandemic and all of that stuff that gets in there, I originally was supposed to take this test last year, and I shouldn't say lucked out because it's a terrible time that we're in, but PMI extended how long we could take the exams, and so I had kept pushing it back. I'm like, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking this exam. I can't do it. I can't do it. And so then something's just like, no, you got to get this done. And so that's when I was trying to find a better resource. And that's when I came across your website and contacted you, and here I am now. I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really pumped that you stuck to it. I mean, it affects a lot of people in that way where they're like, you know, they fail or they feel like they're gonna fail, and then they give up. But you didn't give up, so that's a testament to you, dude. And like, that's awesome. So, accountability coaches and stuff. Who were you with, and how did that go in the short term that you were with us? What was the deal there?
So I had Salvador, and
Okay.
yeah, that yeah,
Salvador's a
that
killer, so that's good. Like he's very serious, which is good.
yeah, the first session, the questions that I had to answer, my answers were correct, which like obviously was boosting my confidence. I'm like, okay, I know more than what I thought. And I shouldn't say the first set. I only had 2 sessions with him because
Yeah.
again, the first time I talked to you was I think 13 days ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Within 13 days. Yeah.
so yeah, the first session, okay, I got all of the questions. I mean, there's only 2 questions. I'm like, okay, you can do this. You were able to talk through the question, didn't sound like an idiot, got
Yeah.
the answer correct. And again, even if you got the question wrong, because again, some of the other questions that people were asked or that he asked of other people, I had gotten those wrong. And I'm like, okay, maybe you don't know what's going on. So
Yeah.
then what really kind of like scared me a bit this past Friday, when we were doing the next session, all of the questions that we had, and he was doing a poll. I was getting all of those right. And then he was like, okay, well, since you're taking an exam on Monday, let's give the last question to you. And I got it wrong. And I'm like,
Oh no. Yeah.
and so, and I'm like, oh Lord, should I be taking this on Monday? And so he was
Yeah.
like, no, it's fine. It happens. Like, if you look at it, the 2 options that you ruled out, the 2 that were left, honestly, I would probably be going back and forth. And like he really helped boost my confidence. Then he gave me like some things I should do over the weekend, including he told me to do what you told me to do the day before the exam. Relax, don't sit here and go through all of this stuff over again.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up about it. And so I'm like, okay, I do on Saturday, and then Sunday I'm gonna relax. I did kind of go against what you guys said, and what I did, I looked at the previous tests that I had taken in the simulator to look at the questions that I had gotten wrong for the explanations that were on there. But that was all that I did on Sunday. And then I woke up this morning and I don't know, I just felt good.
I mean, honestly, like talk through that because the previous times you said you walked in like super cocky, right? And it's
Yes.
okay. I'm a cocky guy too, so we're good. And like, and so like you said, you felt good this time. How did you feel different this time?
Yeah, so like all through the whole thing with doing like the evaporating data dump. Sorry, use the wrong term.
Yeah,
The
it's cool.
evaporating data dump. I'm like, okay, I keep marking stuff off. Okay, I explain, and like I wouldn't erase it. I would just cross it out, and then
Yeah.
a few days later, I would go back and I'm like, okay, so do you know what this is? You should still be able to repeat this. And so that's what like I kept doing that. And so I'm like, okay, this stuff it's sticking. It's making sense to me. So this morning, because again, one of the other things that I'd done, and actually what sent me your way, I'd actually gotten your ebook and the audiobook before I'd
Yeah.
ever contacted you, and that's what I've been listening to. Because again, I was trying to find a different way to get this done. And so like, yeah, I would listen to like what you had in the audiobook, answer the questions before you would give them in the audiobook. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting this stuff. And so this morning I'm like, okay, wait, let me just listen to the ebook one more time. I'm like, no, don't do that. Just relax. And so I'm
Yes.
like, okay, this nervousness is not what I felt the other 2 times that I took it. I'm like, okay, maybe that's the difference. Like,
Okay.
yeah, it was a completely different feeling. And I mean, I was so jumpy this morning. It was crazy. And before I'm like, whatever.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
go over
Well, I
to
mean,
the
I
test
think
and
people
stuff.
have like a nervousness of like, hey, I think I'm ready. I just want to do the best I can. So
Yep.
I mean, it's good to know that like you did so well, and that people out there are like, oh, everything's perfect. Like Marcus is, unstoppable and stuff. Like, no, you still have a certain nerve. It's natural. Like it's a big
Yep.
deal. So
Yep.
that's cool. So how did you manage your emotions during the exam? You talked a little bit about how, hey, you take a step back, but like,
Yep.
yeah, how did you do that for people out there?
Yeah, so the version I took, it was because they're still doing the proctored exam. So
Right.
I checked in at my test time was at 10 a.m. So at 9:30, I'm like, it was funny because yesterday it stormed here in Texas, and so our internet went out for a few minutes, and I'm like, okay, wait, if I'm here tomorrow with this exam, like everything that was triggering my anxiety was going on. Like internet went out. I'm like, if that happens tomorrow, I'm screwed. Like, so I'm like, okay, what would a project manager do? Let me figure out some risk mitigation strategies. Okay, let me go to my job where I know that it's a much more reliable connection. I'll be wired in and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what I did that this morning. Got to my office super early, put signs on the door so nobody would bother me and all kind of stuff. So then at 9:30, I had gotten everything ready for the check-in, went through the check-in, and then before, they tell you like to click when you're ready to start the exam, when they'll connect you to a person. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I sat back, I closed my eyes and went through like the breathing strategies and stuff to calm myself down. I reminded myself, one of the things I remember you saying was when you're answering the questions, remember to think that what is the long-term answer, not the short-term answer. So I kept saying that to myself. What would be the, like, you're looking for things to do that would affect the project on a long term, or you're thinking for, what's happening in future projects and things like that. So I was reminding myself, make sure you're not going too fast and think that way. So then once I started the exam, I'm like, all right, here we go. And then my nervousness, it went away. It went away. So I'm taking the exam, it's going on. And then it kind of came back when, again, like I said before, when I looked up at the clock and saw that the time was ticking away, and I'm like, have I been doing more than 1:12 per question? And I'm like, you're wasting time trying to figure out how much time you got.
You might as well just solve questions.
Yeah. And so that's when I got myself to breathe again. And then I just got through the rest of the test and had 13 minutes left.
That is awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, cool, man. So this will not be the last time we chat, right? Because I got an idea for you after this. But there's people out there that are like you, that have struggled, maybe failed once, twice, whatever. Like those people are having a difficult time. Like, what would you say to those people to get them through that? As my kids go crazy in the background. Boy, got big advice here. Advice for struggling students. Keep it down for 2 seconds, please. Take it away.
I shouldn't say lock them in there. I close them in a room with Power Rangers on.
Oh, you got Power Rangers. I need to get Power Rangers on. All right. So, all right, people struggling, they're lost. What would you say to those people?
Yeah, so the thing that I was beating myself up with the motivation and saying, oh, you can't do this. You don't know this stuff. And the thing I had to tell myself was, this information, like what you said, it's all logical. It's not this, oh, let me just memorize all this stuff. It is very logical. You just have to figure out how to use the information. Once that starts connecting in your mind, it's just all like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of work. It's not just smooth sailing, but you're on a path where it's like, oh, I'm actually just learning the process of how to actually do this stuff. And it's not, oh, did I memorize all of these facts? Yeah, so it was like, okay, let me just keep going on, keep figuring it out. And as like the days went on with the course, I'm like, okay, wait, I'm getting this stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So if someone gets in there and they do it, like just pick them up and get them going. Like, it'll guide them through. So, man, I think it's amazing what you're doing. Last thing, like as you get through this, you are already a good project manager, but do you think you're a better project manager through this just 13 days of working and talking and thinking through stuff, or what?
So it's funny you asked that question, because one of the things that you and Salvador kept saying was like, if you need help, like figuring out what the question is asking, use some kind of something else to get you to think through the question. If it's building a house or whatever, like use that as an example to apply the question. And so there's actually some projects that I managed that a lot of the issues that were presented in questions, even the questions on your site and in the actual exam, they meshed really well with the issues that I've been having in some of our projects at work. And so I'm like, oh, that made it really easy to connect the subject matter. But I'm like, wait a minute, not only is this helping me on the exam, these are things I need to be doing with these actual projects. So I'm like, okay, well, I know what are some new steps that I need to be taking now, some new methods to try out. So yeah, I'm excited.
Dude, that is awesome. Well, I am so glad that you reached out about 13, 14 days ago and you went in. And the cool thing is, like, from my perspective is you went through, like, you just did everything right. Like, you followed the path, you stayed positive, you pulled yourself up, you committed to it, and then at the end of the day, you just went in there, relied on yourself, and you execute. And so that's all it takes, man. And you know, you got through it. So kudos to you as you got through.
Thank
so
you.
we're very happy and proud of how well you did. So good job, man.
Thank you so much.
That's cool, man. All right. Well, we will talk again. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks again, dude. See ya.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, take care.